What is up, folks? It is crazy times, and I think it's just a good time to try our best to stay hopeful, stay positive, but more importantly, find ways to stay creative. Now, I originally intended for this test to be a lot more exciting, a lot more elaborate, but as things stand, we're kind of confined within our four walls. With that being said, let's jump in right away and talk about what we're doing today. We have here the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. On it attached, I have the Metabones Ultra Cine Speed Booster, which brings us to more of a Super 35 look when shooting in the full resolution that the Pocket 4K offers, which is 4K DCI. Okay, so what I decided and what I've been wanting to do for a long time is compare the good old Workhorse. This is the Sigma Art 18 to 35mm f1.8. This is definitely, for me, the go-to lens when I'm shooting any type of corporate work, documentary work, run and gun style work. I usually just slap this on the GH5 and away I go. What I really like to do with the Sigma Art is because it's so clinically sharp, unless it's for like a really beautiful kind of piece, quote unquote beautiful, do you know what I mean? Like if we're shooting like some kind of model or something. But if we're just doing like a normal documentary shoot, a normal corporate shoot, talking head kind of thing, I'll usually throw a quarter Black Pro Mist on this, or a quarter Hollywood Blackmagic onto this, or one of my new favorites, a half digital diffusion FX filter. And those go really well on this Sigma Art. That's what I like to use. If you don't know of any of those filters, or if it's your first time seeing any of my videos, I'm gonna put links to some of these products down below into the description, obviously, of course. But on today's test, I didn't use any filters because I didn't want that interfering with any of our tests, obviously with a lens test. So this is all naked lenses, right? Okay, so we have those, and I have 4 Zeiss lenses. So the first one is our classic Zeiss, the 15mm f2.8. This is a crazy wide angle lens. This is a full frame lens. Keep in mind, all 4 of these Zeiss lenses are full frame, while this Canon Sigma Art is an APS-C, okay? Which means basically that it will not work on a full frame sensor, the Sigma Art will not, and it also will not work on a Metabones XL speed booster. So if you're new here, or new to this whole game, if you are gonna get a Sigma Art lens, at least with the 18 to 35, and I'm pretty sure the 50 to 100, which are 2 matching zoom lenses in the Sigma Art range, they both are f1.8, however, they're both APS-C. They will not work with Metabones XL, so you'll have to get the Metabones Ultra. It will vignette on the Metabones XL. So with that being said, Zeiss 15mm, this is the classic Zeiss, the ZF.2, pretty badass lens. Love this lens. I call it the Stranger, and we'll be looking at that. By the way, I've done a full video, if you're new here, I've done full videos on my entire Zeiss Simmod Lens set. I'll put a link to that down in the description below if you've never seen that. The next one we're going to be looking at is another Zeiss Classic ZF.2, the 21mm f2.8. This is, I call it the Gem, and it is optically the same as the original Contax Zeiss 21mm f2.8. There's obviously a newer coating because this one is like decades newer, obviously, but it does have the same optical design as the original Contax Zeiss 21mm f2.8. And then I have 2 Contax Zeiss lenses to compare to the Sigma Art as well. The first one up is known as the Hollywood. That's just a nickname. I've talked about rumors of that in the Zeiss guide video I just mentioned, so if you want to learn more about the history of some of these things, link down in the description below. This is the 28mm f2. Definitely my go-to lens for just kind of my normal lens. This is it right here. So yeah, 28mm f2. This is an AEG, which means this is one of the earlier Contax Zeiss lenses, and the G means it was made in Germany. Okay, and then finally, we're going to be comparing the Sigma Art to this last Contax Zeiss that I have. I call it the Traveler. It's the 35mm f2.8. It's actually connected to the Blackmagic right now. You can see how super compact it is. That is why I call it the Traveler. It's great for traveling, and it's great for gimbal work, right? This, however, is an AEJ. So AE means it is one of the earlier in the Contax Zeiss lineup, but J basically means it was manufactured in Japan. So we're gonna be looking at all 4 of these. First up here is this kind of go-to test. and I had Marianne sit in on this for us, and this is kind of a la a Shane Horobet style test here, right? So what we're doing is we're looking at how each of these lenses works on the skin tones, right? I have the little chip chart in there so we can look for color reference, and obviously this is a bokeh test as well, and kind of a focus breathing test as well, because when I'm racking focus to the blurred out Christmas lights in the back and then back to Marianne there, we can see how focus breathing is and just how each of these lenses works in terms of the blurred out regions. You know, we're talking about bokeh here. And then I have that little miniature aperture 20D, the little baby Fresnel, and that's for a lens flare test. Let's take a look at the Sigma Art when it's set to 18mm focal length. Now, because the 15mm Zeiss only opens up to a 2.8, I kind of did the same with the Sigma Art. I left it at a 2.8 for this test. But keep in mind that when you're on the Metabones Ultra, that f2.8 technically becomes an f2 when you're talking in terms of full frame equivalent, right? So the bokeh that we're seeing is more akin to the kind of bokeh that you would see if it was on full frame sensor at f2, right? I don't want to go down that wormhole too much in today's video, but I'll just leave it there. Okay, but again, we're looking at skin tones. We're looking at how it deals with kind of like with the fall off. Also, we're looking at sharpness and detail in terms of her hair, and again, the bokeh and the lens flaring. Okay, so now let's take a peek at Okay, so now let's take a peek at how the Zeiss Classic 21mm f2.8 deals with the bokeh and the skin tones and etc. Very, very similar here to the 15mm. These are both from the same line. They're both ZF2s. They're both classics. They're both in the, you know, kind of a more of a modern look, but definitely have newer T-star coatings when it comes to Zeiss lenses. Not quite as new as, say, a Milvus lineup. Definitely not as new as like a CP2 or something like that, but still, these are from the early 2000s. The much awaited for, let's check out the Hollywood, the Contax Zeiss 28mm f2. And here we can start looking at how these AE Zeiss lenses, the Contax AE lenses, have Ninja Star bokeh at the second f-stop. So with the Hollywood, you'll see the bokeh is nice and spherical at wide open at f2, but once we drop down to an f2.8, that's when we see the Zeiss signature Ninja Star bokeh. But once we jump to f4, it kind of starts to go away, turns into more of a stop sign kind of bokeh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, now we're gonna check out the Traveler, the 35mm Contax Zeiss f2.8. And again, Ninja Star bokeh shows up here at f4 and starts going away at around an f5.6.
Yeah. What? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It was recommended to me from some professionals in the field to, when you want to look at aberrations and sharpness and detail, take the camera with the lens attached, go outside and shoot at some leaves, some trees blowing in the wind, things like that, and you can start to see how it deals with all that fine detail of the leaves bristling in the wind. So that's what we did. I only did it with the Contax Zeiss 35mm and the Sigma Art set to 35mm, just for the sake of, you know, it's gonna get a little long-winded here. And plus, because the 15mm is an ultra wide, the 21mm is definitely wide, it just didn't really fit in this scenario. And because, you know, the whole quarantine lockdown thing, couldn't go too far, so I just kind of caught these trees out back. So I stayed kind of more punched in with the 35mm. But we can definitely see how an old Contax Zeiss stacks up to the more modern Sigma Art when we're talking in terms of aberrations and how it deals with detail with the leaves rustling in the wind. Now, keep in mind, I was racking between the leaves in the back, in the and then racking back to the little branch that's in the foreground there. So if you've ever come across while you're watching this and you're going, oh man, why is it so super soft? You have to do a little bit of work and try to direct your attention to either the foreground or the background, because I was kind of racking back and forth there, trying to jump between which one was blowing in the wind more. Okay, so then the next thing I wanted to do is see how each of these lenses do in their close focusing capabilities. So the first up is the Sigma Art. I set it all the way to the 35mm focal length, and we rip it wide open here, and we go in at the closest focus distancing. So the nearest distance that it can do the lens here is 0.28 meters. Okay, so here we are at 0.28 meters away, and this is just interesting to see how well it does when we're at such a close focusing distance here. And we do this with each of the lenses. Okay, so there you have it, folks. Not as cool and awesome as I had originally planned for this test, but you know, we may be in in lockdown for a while here, so I'm just trying to stay creative, stay motivated. Over on the Patreon, I've been dropping a lot of videos and workshops that I've been digging up and dropping those over on the Discord through the Dog Times Patreon. I just dropped a video on how we took one small tiny location and turned it into 3 locations. And so that's kind of exciting for a corporate shoot that I had a while back. And also, just throwing it out there, if you're super bored in this time, there is now 20 videos in the backlog archive on the Dog Times Productions Patreon. So there's tons of BTS. The videos over there are super long. Some of them are like an hour long. So there's definitely a lot of content over there. I mean, potentially, you know, a lot. Definitely at least 20 hours, probably from 15 to 20 hours of content over there on the Dog Times Productions Patreon. So just throwing that out there, you know, I don't know how bored or anything, or how you guys want to stay motivated during this time, but over there I definitely break down a lot of shoots that we go on. We look at what worked, what didn't work, the lighting breakdowns. I mean, just everything. We just go whole hog on it. And I mean, you could drop $1 over there right now and instantly unlock all 20 of those videos. And I throw up a new one every Monday. So yeah, with that being said, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, what you would go for. You wanna grab one of these Contax Zeiss, maybe the Classic Zeiss, or would you just stay with your Sigma Art 18 to 35? That's it. I just wanna stay, I just wish you all well. And yeah. There's not much to say, is there? Okay, folks, I wish you all the best, and stay positive, stay creative. Let's maybe start sharing some cool things, right? Okay, in the meantime, for now, that is a wrap.